Can I say, I'm pretty sure we've said that, but apparently it took us 2 segments to figure out that it sounded good.
It got the double thumbs up for Brent the Tank. That's all that matters to me.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, buddy.
Ooh,
What's wrong?
shoulders are sore
Are
from the
they?
workout yesterday.
Are you putting more lives in your life?
There you go.
Are you SiriusXM land? Facebook Live land?
Oh man. How to put all the lives in your life.
That's lit. Turn it up. Is that what I said?
I don't know. I was.
There's something like it's Liddy.
I got it close then. I got close. Liddy.
I'm going to continue when you're ready.
No, you go ahead. I was liking the point you're making.
So it was okay. At the end of that last segment, you ever know when you've been in an experience where you have a thought and you're just not saying it proper? That's what happened to me at the end of that segment. As we were wrapping up, and I could see twirly whirls going on. So I'm just like, okay, I can't. I'm gonna start over again. So it is so important that you pick up what we're laying down here, because it does seem like you said you're on both sides. Don't define yourself.
Yeah.
But
Define
dig deep into the identity of what you're creating, right?
Yes.
And we talked about this last week. We talked about avatars. So that actually kind of goes in.
Yeah.
If you caught us last week, you'll know what we're talking about.
Absolutely.
But like, you want to internalize what you're doing, right? Identify yourself as that thing, but you don't want to attach to it to the point that you're rigid and stuck in it.
Right.
And the way for me that I'm always able to, I love bringing it back to this one question. Is the definition I'm currently holding of myself, or is my current identity serving me or not serving me? Is it serving me or not serving me, right? Because like, if you are, identifying as an administrative assistant right now, and you hate your job, and all you've ever done has been and I'm not shooting down administrative assistant, it's just the first job that came to my head, right? All you've ever done has been an administrative assistant for this one company for your whole life. And you're so like, that's the only thing you could see yourself as. You can't even imagine yourself doing something differently, but you hate your life. Well, it's clearly not serving you, that identity, right? That immovable identity of that's what I've done.
Or this is the cap. This is my ceiling.
Right,
This is
right.
as much I can do.
It's clearly not serving you. So you have to, that's where that process of not being attached to it matters so much, because then you become that movable, flexible person.
Yeah.
And I think that, one of the things that we talk so much about is living. Look, I don't like the language of living consciously aware, because I think it's been overused.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's become a catchphrase. I'm living a conscious life. But no, I would probably argue that 90% of the people who I've heard say that actually aren't living a conscious life.
I agree with that.
But when you really are living in conscious awareness, you'll be able to answer the question, is this serving me or is this not serving me?
I agree.
Right? It has to be a practice. It has to be a lifestyle.
This is the fun, I'm gonna, for everyone listening and or watching, I'm gonna reveal something. It's a showbiz thing.
Okay.
Some shows you're just in flow.
Yeah.
Everything you want to say just comes out effortlessly. And other shows, for whatever reason, who cares? Maybe it's the moon. It was a full moon last night. Maybe we're soggy. Is that the right word? See? That's an example. What kind of word is that, soggy? I don't know what that means.
Wet.
It means I'm damp. I don't even know what that means.
Moist.
Moist. Off camera,
Our daughter-in-law's on camera.
Our daughter-in-law / photographer hates that word, so I try to use it. No, but this is one of those shows that we're like trying so hard to explain what we're trying to say, but it's just not flowing well. You gotta decode us today. You gotta decode it all.
I don't feel that way.
Oh, it's totally that way. But maybe, you know what? Don't have a soggy brain. Don't have a moist brain. I'm doing it for
Nobody knows what you're talking about now.
Decode it. Decode what we're saying well, is my point.
Oh, man.
You gotta define yourself hard with an avatar. We talked about that last week.
Yeah.
But you can't be attached to that definition. It's gotta be fluid. Which takes me, you know what? Because I teach so much Taoism, right? I'm gonna pull a reference from Taoism, okay? And here it is. The most powerful substance in the universe, according to Taoists, is water. But not necessarily because of the reasons you think, right? It's not because water, can rush fast and a waterfall, but it's simply because water is effortless in its definition. If you run water off of a cliff, it forms a waterfall. If you give it no gravity whatsoever, it simply pools as a lake. If you put wind, a lot of wind behind it, it becomes large waves. If you put it in the freezer, it freezes. When you take it out of the freezer, it thaws. If you boil it, it becomes steam. It's effortless and it has no definition. It just does what it needs to do in the times it needs to do it. That's the whole point. That's what I think you and I have mastered in practical form, in human form.
I agree.
We simply adopt the definitions we want, given what it is we choose to want to accomplish. And then we define ourselves hard in that way until we choose to change the definition.
I agree.
But that is the secret sauce point number one.
Yeah.
Define yourself hard, but don't attach to that definition.
You know, so this is just like a fun little way to give an example of that.
Yeah.
So actually, I have a couple ways that I can give examples to that, like more like specificity around it. So for example, we're living in small town USA.
We are.
We are living in the middle of rural farmland.
Hicksville.
And you know, we were carless in Miami, so we have to get a new vehicle. We're renting at the moment, but we're going to be buying one. But we're purposely buying a pickup truck, right? Because it's part of the adopting the identity, right?
It's
like
total small town podunk USA.
I want to feel like and I'm planning on getting cowboy boots. I want cowboy boots.
I want a cowboy hat.
But my whole point is like we really do adopt it, right?
Yeah.
You know, and also one of the other things, like, you know, every single time as a physique athlete, I go in and out of growing seasons and cutting seasons, right? And I'm currently in a cutting season. Like stepping into the identity of that, every single time I shift from a growing to a cutting season, I shift certain things like my wardrobe. I literally will go get a new gym bag, a new pair of running shoes. Like it's like I am literally recreating the image of myself to step into this new persona.
You know, I'm gonna expand on that because that's really cool the way you said that. For me, if you think about the extrapolation of that, I know a lot of fitness competitors, when it's not in season, they go out of season. That's when you need to eat a bit more food, gain a bit of weight. It's healthy, it's natural, it's good for you. But their self-talk will be centered around how fat they're getting.
Right.
I've never heard you talk like that, not even one time.
Yeah.
So it's not just about avoiding the negative self-talk. It's about adopting the definition.
Right.
What I have heard you talk about in your off seasons is that the weight you're gaining is piling on the muscle. So the next time you go in season, you start cutting and reducing body fat, you'll have more muscle than you had last time. That's a great way of looking at how you define certain things.
Right.
Moving from Miami to here, we could define it as how much money we're coming out of pocket in order to break a lease, get a new home. Now we have to buy a vehicle because we live in Podunk. But for us, we always define it as, but we're investing in the next chapter of our life.
Right.
We never look at money as a finite thing, that we have this much, and if some of it leaves our bank account to afford what we have now, we somehow can't restore it. No, for us, the definition is all, we're investing in the next chapter of our life. Imagine how much abundance is going to come from that.
Yeah.
See, how you define yourself and how you define something is what that thing, including yourself, becomes.
Yeah.
And that's what it is absolutely the biggest secret sauce I think we have.
Yeah.
And I really hope that everyone watching and listening right now will spend some time looking in the mirror in the next day or so, just challenging themselves on how they are defining themselves. Because odds are, and I'm telling you, this is our clinical experience for well over 2 decades now, the people who don't have what they want, the people who don't do what they want, they are defining themselves in ways that won't allow that to happen.
Right.
And it's not circumstances, it's not luck, it's not anything except how you're defining yourself.
Completely.
And that is why it's the number 1 on my list of secret sauces.
I couldn't agree more.
Well, that's good.
I wanted to add to something there. Oh yeah, so I wanted to talk a little bit about here how, when we're talking the science of the human brain, how much the human brain loves new. Like
Yes.
it really does. Like it's funny. So here's another one of those 2 sides of the story thing. Because as much as the human brain will try to keep you in the status quo of what it knows, which would be the familiarity of comfort, the brain really does crave new stimulus to grow and expand and to, like literally for the brain to grow. new stimulus, new environments, new experiences. That like the brain craves that. And you know, I can't help but notice every time, you know, whether it's we move or, you know, we shift our fitness or whatever the case may be, a new business endeavor, whatever, like there's such a stimulating response in my brain, in my body, in my life, like everything around us. Like we literally left Miami on Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon, drove to St. Cloud, and on Saturday night I was driving out to go pick up a few things, and I'm like, we live here now.
Yep.
We live here now in this new space, everything's new.
In Podunk, USA.
Everything's new, and the people are new, and the environment is new, and the smells are new, and oh my gosh, we saw an alligator really down the street. Like we saw an alligator and a turtle, and there's birds walking all over the place. There's so much new.
Big, like 6-foot birds,
right?
By the way.
There's so much new that we're experiencing, and as much as new requires adaptation, and the adaptation is also brain stimulus and brain like activity that's happening, we thrive as human beings on that. And I'm sitting here thinking, and like as you were talking about what you were just saying there, I was thinking to myself how there are so many people, and my heart breaks when I think about this. There are so many people living in that state of like, I have to do this. I can't change.
Yep.
I can't move. I can't this. I wish I could do that. I have, you know, I'm not as fortunate. Like there are so many people limiting themselves in what they're capable of because of that definition, that identity
100%.
that they're holding.
Exactly.
And I just picture their brains just like being like, give me more,
Yeah.
you know?
It's a funny nuance too, because the human brain's number one priority is your survival.
Right.
And one of the things that challenges the brain, I know it is the nuance you just talked about, is new. Because with new comes your brain's resistance to pull you back into comfort, because the brain believes that's what safety is, and that's where survival is found. But you're not wrong. Once you take one step out of your comfort zone, the newness starts to it starts to induce the brain and challenge it in strong ways.
Yeah.
It's the, you know, I'm on a tangent right now in my thoughts, but I'm just going to say this. Not a medical doctor and not dispensing medical advice, but there's so much. If you really think about what's become normal, how do I want to phrase this? When I think about heart disease, I think about cancers, I think about diabetes, I think about Alzheimer's, I think about Parkinson's. There are so many modern diseases that have become commonplace that we get duped into thinking it's normal. It's not normal. It's not normal for the human condition.
Right.
It's those things look, there are always outliers, the 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5% of cases that came out of nowhere. I'm not talking about those cases. But cancers, heart disease, diabetes, type 2 diabetes, Alzheimer's, there is so much predictability in the way we choose to live, how we choose to think, what we choose to worry about. Epigenetics is an emerging science that talks about your biology is not the end-all be-all of your potential from a medical perspective.
Right.
That epigenetics shows that the way we think, how we think, actually has a greater impact on your potential health than even your biology does. We are making ourselves sick with our food choices, with our lack of exercise choices, with how we choose to think and process. And I'm telling you, it's all comes down to definitions.